If you're currently thinking about moving abroad and you're not sure if it's for you, if you're cut out for this life, then I think that this video might be very useful to you. Now, I am not a relocation expert or anything. I'm just speaking from my own personal experience and my perspective of what it takes to actually live abroad and if that has really made me happy over the past 12 years that I have been living out of my native country. There are two types of people who move abroad. One group of people I call the runners. So I name them the runners because they are escaping something. So that might be escaping economic hardship, political turmoil, wars, or just trying to escape a life that they are not in alignment with. Now, the other group of people I call the seekers. These people are not necessarily running away from something, but rather they are looking for something. They are searching for something that they feel is missing from their lives. Now, some people might fall into any of these two categories. I myself fell somewhere in the middle. My reason for moving here was not because I was running away, but rather because I was seeking something. But at the same time, I was always also glad to leave behind an environment that I felt was really stifling me as an individual and as a woman as well, as a girl, a young girl, and as a woman. I just knew that it was things were different. But this is a trap that many people fall into, whether you are in the category of the runners or the seekers, or you're somewhere in between. But this is a trap that most people fall into, and a truth that many people do not realize. And that is that no matter where you move to, no matter where you go, in addition to your physical baggage, you are going to be carrying a much heavier baggage with you. And that is mental, psychological, and spiritual baggage. And no matter where you go, it's gonna go there with you. Moving abroad did not fix me as a person. Moving abroad did not answer all of those questions that I had. Moving abroad did not automatically change me or automatically make me feel like I belonged. It just exposed my baggages to me. It just exposed all of the missing parts in my life. And it forced me to actually start to confront them and to decide on what I wanted to do and how I was going to solve these issues, how I was going to unpack my baggages, how I was going to heal my mental, physical, and spiritual wounds. Yeah. And that's what I would like to talk about today. Most people would only talk about the superficial parts, like moving for financial stability, moving for love, like I did, or moving because you're just seeking a better life. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not think that these are inconsequential reasons to move abroad. I think that they're very valid. They're actually the most salient reasons why you would consider leaving your comfort system behind, leaving everything that you know behind, and just moving to a completely different location. So I do think that that is absolutely valid. Nonetheless, I feel that we need to dig a little bit deeper into the reasons why we are making that decision. This is a decision that will affect you for the rest of your life. This is a decision that can make or break you. It's a decision that can lead to great fulfillment or the opposite, great disillusionment. And not diving into the deeper aspects of moving of relocating, I think can be detrimental in the long run. I've listened to so many stories of people who have ended up disillusioned by the places that they've chosen to move to. They did all of the research before they moved. They checked on, how much it would cost them, how they could survive, if there was a community for them over there, and they thought that they had all the story. They thought they had all the cards. But then they arrive in this place, and quickly after the honeymoon phase wears off, because it always does, they soon realize that it's not what I expected. And another thing that happens sometimes is that we romanticize the place that we have decided to move to. We have chosen that place for all of the right reasons. We have chosen that place for all of the positive benefits that we are hoping to experience in that place. And so we romanticize it so much that when we get there, and then we realize that it's just another place like any other place, we get disappointed. This happened to me when I moved here. So I thought that I was going to be, moving to this beautiful island where everything was really sunshiny and life would be slower and life would be better. I was moving to Europe. All of the stories we heard about Europe growing up in Nigeria was that everything worked fine, everything worked perfectly. Now I know that Malta is arguably not exactly like most European countries. It has a bit of African vibes to it, North African vibes to it, and things do work more efficiently than it does in most parts of Africa. However, I was quite surprised to find that there were many things that reminded me of back home. For example, how the public system works, which isn't super efficient, or should I say, it's kind of slow. The fact that, there is this tribalism, happening here. And it's not just tribalism like we are Maltese and these are foreigners, it's also within themselves. And that is very common in Nigeria. If you don't know, Nigeria has hundreds of tribes. And we are very tribalistic. Africans are very tribalistic. So, by tribalistic, it doesn't mean that we want to fight wars against each other. It's just that we recognize each other, and we are more willing to favor ourselves, and we stereotype other tribes. And that also happens here in Malta within the Maltese, and that was fascinating for me to discover. But then it was also like, oh, I thought, in Europe it was more progressive. People were more progressive, and there wasn't this thing of us versus them, this mentality of us versus them. But I know that that's just that's my fault, right, for thinking that. That's a preconceived idea that I came with, a preconceived baggage that I brought with me over here. And this reminds me of this talk by Chimamanda Adichie. She is a very well known and acclaimed writer, Nigerian writer. And she gave this talk, a TED talk titled The Danger of a Single Story. I recommend you listen to that because it just talks deeply to that inner bias that all of us, no one is exempt, that inner bias that all of us carries around with us. The danger of a single story is that you have one story of a person, or in this case of a nation, and you stereotype that person or that nation based on that one sided story that you have of them. So the story that we got from the media about Europe is just basically mostly one sided, right? The good parts, the great parts, the things that work absolutely phenomenally. Something else that I learned is that I am not the main character in this particular story. I have come to someone else's home, and I have left behind all of my support system. I have left behind all of my customs and traditions, my food, my language. I've left behind so many things that I used to take for granted, right? And now I'm in a completely new place and I have to follow completely new rules. So discovering all of these new rules and the new culture, the new way of life, a new way of being, that really humbled me. Okay. Because back at home, you have familiarity, right? People understand you to some extent. People have there's this emotional intelligence that you share with the people in your community, and it's not exactly the same in a different community because their rules, their social rules and norms are usually different from wherever you might be coming from. And if you're not aware of that, then you get really misunderstood, right? Which is understandable. Um, and you might feel very left out and very lonely because you feel that you don't belong there. You know, you've left a place because you want to um, discover yourself in a new place. And then you realize that, hey, maybe I don't actually belong here because it's not like home. I mean, you left home. Why do you expect to find home in the new place? So, like, when people ask me questions sometimes about what they can find here in Malta, so they ask me questions like, is there a large insert group community? While it is good to find community and it is definitely helpful, it can get you off the ground if you already have people who are similar to you there and you can join that group. I feel that it blocks connection with the local community. I had to learn to respect the culture here. I had to learn to understand the culture here. For example, once I went into a shop, and the way the lady responded to me, for me, it was rude. Okay. I felt that she was very rude, and I never went back into that shop again. But over time, I learned that it's just a way of being, a way of speaking for the Maltese people. They might seem like they're rude. They might sound like they're rude because the language is kind of harsh and strong. And that also translates into the English accent as well. So they might seem like it might seem like they were rude, but in reality, it's just how they are, right? And I had to realize that it had nothing to do with me personally, and that I didn't have to be defensive about it or think too much into that, that I just had to learn more about these people, more about this land, more about this island, their customs and everything. And that realization was actually freeing. When you're in your own society, among your own people, your own gang, there is always a certain level of expectations that people have of you. So, expectations perhaps about what kind of job you should have, what kind of job is considered a good job, you know, the kind of job that you will not be ashamed of. Over here, nobody cares. Nobody knows you. Nobody cares. Nobody knows your story. Nobody cares. You have a blank slate. No one's really looking at you. No one's expecting you to exceed anything per se. And there is little competition. There's a lot of competition back at home with within your family, your friends, your colleagues. You know, there's competition there. But when you move to a new place, that competition, at least at the beginning, is next to non-existent. And you can just truly find yourself. And that's how I found the job that I'm doing right now. It wasn't a job that I considered for myself. And now I realize that it was because of the negative stigma or the low regard that is given to the job of teaching back at home. But here I found pride in teaching. I found community in teaching, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Then there's the issue of relationships, friendships, and it hits really hard because you outgrow a lot of people that you leave behind, not out of pride or superiority. It just happens, right? With distance, the mind is fonder, the heart is fonder, but out of sight really is out of mind. And it goes both ways, right? So your circle of support reduces quite a lot. So I get why people want to be sure that when they move to a new place, there will be a community of similar people. And that brings me to integration. When people move, they don't often think about the part of integrating into the society they are moving into. And that's because I think there's this mindset of I'm going there to get something, right? And there is nothing about I'm going there to give something. It's always I'm going to take something. I want something is missing in my life and I want to get it. Integrating into society is way more than just learning a language and the culture. It's also giving back. Giving back takes different forms. Giving back can mean just following the basic rules. Giving back can mean not trying to take advantage all of the time of the situation. Giving back can also mean not being defensive all of the time. Giving back can mean being understanding when things don't go your way. So when I go to see a doctor and they misunderstand me and misdiagnose me, I try to understand the culture, where they might be coming from. You know, a place like Malta is very small and very homogeneous. So it would be senseless for them to know so much about the Black anatomy. So it is up to me to either teach them or show them. I think that we need to not regard integration as losing yourself or as losing your culture, but rather as adding on layers. You know, it's not a destruction of foundation. It's just the adding of layers to make you a much more complex, a much more interesting, and a much more knowledgeable person about life. I am very proud of my heritage. I'm very proud of where I come from, my culture, but I'm also very proud of the other layers that I've added to myself. I have grown personally as a person. I have faced my insecurities. I have faced my fears. I have gotten to a point where I questioned how I related to people. And I thought to myself, is this because of what I learned back at home? Is this a cultural behavior that I'm trying to project onto the people here? Or is this truly what I believe? Is this truly my personal ethos? In the end, what I have discovered now is that home is not a place. Home is what you create and nurture. It is a mindset and the collection of experiences that is incredibly liberating, because it is not tied down to any location. It is not tied down to a collective group, a collective sense of belonging, but rather it is tied down to the essence of you. Let me know if you live abroad or if you're planning on living abroad. Let me know what your experiences have been. Let me know if you've been through a similar deconstruction and reconstruction of your identity. I would really love to know that. Please let me know in the comments below. And until the next video, ciao, ciao.